Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode 922 today for the Austrian Grand Prix in Season 7. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. A very hectic one at the Canadian Grand Prix that involved one of the strangest crashes I've seen. I'm still kind of processing how an AI lost it in a straight line, literally with a wobble, I think with DRS open it was for Verstappen. And as a whole, it was a tougher race for us as a team. Myself and Lando both finished a little bit lower than you'd expect. I mean, those expectations are quite high since, being pretty much not off the podium as a team. We had a 1-2 at Baku, so, I thought we were going to be quite strong, but, McLaren finally turned up, Ocon finally turned up, dominated that race, really looked really comfortable. Hamilton a little bit less convincing past that race, but still, to be fair to him, it's a third place. That's still actually quite mega for Hamilton's AI in this career mode series. If you've been following along, you know how poor he has been. Really, so far, well and truly, this has been one of his best seasons so far for a long time. So, they sit, both McLaren, as you can see, sit in third and fourth in the championship. So a very good day in the office for them. And Stroll as well, who is right up there, splitting the two McLarens on the podium. And yeah, we were on the back foot as a team. Lando looked a little bit sheepish with the tyre where it was late on into that race as we were able to get past him and pull away well and truly. So we'll see how it goes going into Austria. Austria is a bit of a weird one because it always seems to be so action-packed. But at the same time, there's never been a top line sort of thing that's happened that makes the entire race just ballistic, but the action is just insane. I think being such a short circuit, a quick one, with the maxed out cars, with most of these teams being maxed out now, you get such just fast racing because everyone is so quick with DRS, the slipstream, and the ERS is pretty much a non-issue in terms of deployment and whatnot. So I'm sure it's going to be another very exciting one, and it may be even more so because it is going to be a bit of a wet weekend. We've not got any rain for Saturday, but it is very gloomy on qualifying day, so I don't know, knowing the game, it could well rain at some point. It definitely looks like it could rain, but I think it's going to be just overcast, so hopefully the look of Saturday, doom and gloom, isn't a kind of, a sign of things to come basically for us in the race. But I think there is some forecast for rain at the beginning of the race, so that's gonna already make things interesting in terms of there's not been any rain in this race weekend so far. There won't be unless the game's lying to us about Saturday. So the first time we're gonna be out on intermediates and seeing how this car is on heavy fuel as well is gonna be at the race start. So it's gonna be a little bit sheepish for me and even the AI maybe in terms of how they react to it, the setups as well. I'm gonna be running, well, I am running a dry setup because it is looking like it will dry out eventually later in the race. So I'm going for a dry setup, but that first part then may be a case of damage limitation and a bit of pain and unknown really, but that's going to be there for everyone of course. But starting off with I felt a really tidy lap. I was really happy with that lap, and we're already 1.5 tenths off a sub 1 minute lap time around Austria. So could this be the one where multiple drivers get under 1 minute? We've already had some under 1 minute lap times before here at Austria in the last 2 seasons in qualifying. But I think honestly, with how the grid has progressed and how close things are and how good the AI individually in terms of their stats are getting, I think this could push a lot of us under sub 1 minute. I mean, I have definitely done it, you can see there, so that's a really, really satisfying thing. It wasn't even a fantastic lap, I don't think. I think there's still some time to find maybe there, as it's a 59.9. I feel like maybe there's about 2 tenths maximum that I could find, and as you can see, I'm actually the only man who went under 1 minute in Q2, which I was surprised at, and is that a really good sign of things to come for us in the top 10 shootout? But in Q2 here, some surprises. In Q1, Red Bull looked nowhere, and now they've made it into the top 10 shootout, whereas both Ferraris knocked out. Leclerc only just got knocked out, though, and Ocon only just made it in. Hamilton got knocked out. So after coming off the back of a 1-3, you've only got one of them just about scraping in through to the top 10 shootout. You've got both AlphaTauris and Red Bulls comfortably through. Merc looked quick again, or at least in the hands of Gasly there, right at the sharp end with Lance Stroll. Very close stuff in terms of the timesheet. It's bonkers. It really, there's no form guide in this season. I keep trying to predict and trying to talk to you guys about maybe what we're going to see in, the episode upcoming, like they do in real life F1, give a bit of punditry kind of analysis to it, but it's very hard to really call any sort of form in this season so far. As we go into Q3 then, again. Still very gloomy. We made a big mistake there. You saw there was a bit of the rear end twitched out. I kind of got on the curb and oversteer kicked in. So we've definitely not done a great lap, and you can see there it's slower than our Q2 time. So we can definitely go quicker there. It's still pretty okay, but actually compared to everyone, as we go on the second flyer, we're down to P10. So everyone's turning up here. We might actually have a few sub 1 minute lap times here in the top 10 shootout, but look at this. We've now gained nearly 5 tenths there alone in that traction zone. Sector 1 purple, Sector 2 looking good, gaining that time we lost. As we go through to the line, it's going to be a 59.779, and that it's only good enough for P3. Verstappen is on provisional pole, Ocon second. Don't know where Lando is. I don't know what his second lap time could bring. In the end, it's not going to be enough to beat us, but it will be P5. We move down to P3 as Stroll comes in the mix as well. So fair play. That's come out of nowhere. We've talked about Mercedes not looking as quick in the last few episodes, but they've turned up, and as I said, the form book is out the window with these colder temperatures maybe in qualifying. Verstappen has got a pole with a 59.6. Ocon close behind, very close behind in second place there, pretty much on the same lap time near enough, and then Lance Stroll in the third. They've done very well. I mean, all of us have very, very competitive qualifying there, and Red Bull, after looking a lot stronger in Q2, fell back a little bit, so I guess that's where their improvements kind of hit a ceiling, and Bottas out-qualifying both of them in the AlphaTauri. Gasly will be a bit annoyed at that because he's been the qualifying man at Silver Arrows, but he's kind of way down compared to Verstappen. But this is interesting. Again, could we have a bit more of a race on our hands and on the back foot as a team with Lando also not being there? And for the first time in a while, we've out-qualified them quite nicely, as I felt quite comfortable through that entire qualifying session. And remember, on top of all this, there's some rain at the start of this race, so this could go either way. Let's go to the grid and find out.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 rights and 3 lefts, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's talk briefly about Esteban Ocon. That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Esteban Ocon lines up on pole position, with Lance Stroll alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have the owner driver, Norris, Valtteri Bottas, and Gasly, Sainz, De Vries, Ricciardo, and Max Verstappen, Albon, Latifi, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Kvyat, Hamilton, Russell, Jack Aitken, and Luca Giotto, Schumacher, Leclerc. They've taken a grid penalty, Magnussen, and Nobuharu Matsushita. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Right, well, it's race day, and we've got some more drama. The pole man, Max Verstappen, has a grid penalty for, I'm assuming, engine components. So now Esteban Ocon inherits pole position. Could he be on for another dominant display then? We've got Lance Stroll, the man who was trying to take the race to him in Canada. So it might be Stroll v Ocon once again. But we're there now. Myself and Lando elevated both to the second row of the grid. But there is the rain. There is the strategy at the moment, intermediates. But you can see about, I'd say, just over a third of the way through this race. Apparently the rain will stop, but that's not a definite exact measure. We're just going to have to basically see, but I'm hoping we can just use one set of inters till the dry period, because if we have to faff around with another inter pit stop, that will be a little bit tricky to call, you know, whether you take the risk of doing that or not. And then it's going to be about the dry period, how that's going to go. If it's long, there might be 2 stints on dry tyres, and then the tyre wear will kick in around this circuit. So there's a lot of different variables here. At the start, though, heavy fuel, first time on inters. this is going to be interesting for everyone involved. Here we go then to 5 red lights to the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. It's a second row lockout for our team. Lights are on for an age, but they're out finally, and it's a initially slow start for ourselves, and we actually get cut across a little bit there by Lance Stroll. Ocon maintaining the lead. We're being swamped left and right by Lando and also Valtteri Bottas in the AlphaTauri with a fantastic getaway. He's up into P3 now. We've had a horrendous exit. We almost got pinched in by Lando and Bottas, so we had to get out there, but being cautious now has really hurt me, and now into the next brake zone. De Vries flies in. I'm getting absolutely swarmed by such over-aggressive AI. I've not seen the AI be this aggressive in a long time, and in the wet especially, as I said, I'm not used to these conditions. First time we've done any racing in the wet on this circuit and on heavy fuel for added measures. We try and go around the outside of gas, so we almost hit the back of him and have to take avoiding action. We go wide, and now Verstappen is down the inside. This has been a horrendous lap one. We are down to P9. We have lost 7 positions, I think that is, in this opening lap. That is so bad, as Verstappen now is trying to make a move on his teammate. He was on, well, he did get pole position, but then got pushed back down 10 positions, and he's now trying to find his way up the order. He's already found his teammate. Meanwhile, we've got Ricciardo for company on the left-hand side there, as we're going to try and send one of Verstappen as he gets caught up behind Gasly. A bit of a domino effect and kind of traffic for him, and we use that to good measure to get past him up into P8, catch him napping a little bit behind his teammate as Ricciardo fails to overtake us, and we continue on to lap number 3. Yellow flags, and oh, there's been contact between Verstappen and Albon. Albon's T-boned Verstappen, and Verstappen has to pit in for damage. Albon, I'm sure, will have damage, but he's continued on. But they were, Verstappen was side on with a T-bone crash there. That was in the last sector. I guess Verstappen just lost the back end, or maybe he was racing Ricciardo and lost the back end. Not too sure. But we are remaining in P8. We've got a bit of a gap now to Gasly, so we've got to get our head down, basically, and just try and find a rhythm that just wasn't there on lap 1, clearly. Like I said, this opening part of this race will just be about damage limitation. Well, we basically just didn't do any of that. We actually just got all the damage on lap 1, and now we're going to try and do the limitation by trying to recompose ourselves and re-overtake some people. Up ahead, Gasly is racing De Vries. He's going to make a move. De Vries goes defensive to the inside on the AlphaTauri. The two AlphaTauris doing so well in this race so far. I think Bottas is still in P3, but De Vries is going to get mugged off on the exit with traction. Gasly is there up into P6. Can we now have a go at the Dutchman? He goes defensive to the inside, so we have to go the long way around, but I'm a bit cautious in that brake zone in these Inters conditions because I just got PTSD from what happened on lap 1 where we nearly, just went straight to the back of Gasly, double locking up into that corner. So very overcautious there, I will admit, but just trying to make sure we don't make any contact with anyone, but that just means we have to go again and try on lap number 8. So this is a little bit later and we're still caught up behind De Vries. Can we finally do it? We've got a good run, and it's a little bit close on the grass there, but down the inside we go, just hopefully turn in and we don't make too much contact with him on the exit. No, looks like he's actually really let go of the traction there, De Vries, and we're up into P7. So Gasly's the next target, Sainz P5, I believe Lando then is in P4 as Bottas is still in P3, and we've actually missed an overtake here, so apologies, but Lance Stroll is actually in the lead of this Grand Prix. Then Ocon was leading, but those two are very close, so I guess at some point Ocon's made a mistake or Stroll's overtaken. We've unfortunately just missed when that happened though. And meanwhile behind me, Jack Aiken in the Williams car, he finds himself ahead of Ricciardo. Ricciardo made a mistake, and Williams is legitimately right now in the top 10 as we see further back down the order. Hamilton struggling, racing Giovinazzi. Leclerc way down the order because he got a grid penalty from P11, so he actually started, I think, in second last place that was, and Verstappen and Albon at the back of the grid, of course, with that damage. But we are now, well, we wanted to come in on lap number 10, but we saw Lando was coming in, so we are forced to go out for one more lap because I didn't fancy doing a double stack. But it is now time for the crossover period. You can see my engineer is even saying that, but I felt that for the last 2 laps it was getting a little bit too slow into some of these corners with the turn-in just not being there, and these inters really wearing out, almost becoming slicks on their own right, basically. But lap 11, we're finally in, but that was really frustrating. But that's what happens when your teammates ahead of you on circuit. They get the first call, but Stroll is in. He continued on with us, as well as Ocon, and oh, it's a slow pit stop, really slow. I don't know what that was. They just took their sweet time putting those new tyres on at Racing Point, and so Stroll's lost the lead then, effectively. That's Ocon jumping him in the pit lane. We strap on a set of soft tyres. We've come in at the same time as Carlos Sainz, so to be fair, even though we went a lap later than I wanted to. He still came in at the same time as the race leaders, so it's not all bad, but I think we did lose some time because Gasly has jumped Sainz, and Gasly was behind Sainz before the pit stops, and Gasly's actually now, speaking of, down the inside of Lando Norris. So that will be Gasly up into, I think, P4 that is, and look how poor of a pit stop and in-lap that was for Lance Stroll, because as Gasly gets up into P4, Lance Stroll is having to race Valtteri Bottas wheel to wheel, and we have just witnessed Valtteri Bottas mug Lance Stroll off on the outside. Many muggings today, it would seem, and Bottas is up into P2 in an AlphaTauri, legitimately in this race, whereas Ocon, well, looks like he's back and comfortable, and looks like he's stretching his legs now, so could that be the end of the race for the race win, I wonder? Let's find out. The tyre wear is going to be interesting to see, because none of us really know what's it going to be like on a very green circuit where the rain has washed away all the marbles and the grip from the dry tyre runnings on Friday and Saturday, but at the moment, we're still watching on this battle for P2. Bottas flying high, looking like a completely different man to what we know in real life here in the AlphaTauri. And both of them are looking good. I mean, De Vries, I think, is still in the top 10, but there goes Stroll finally in the Aston Martin liveried Racing Point car up into P2. And now I should think he's going to try and use that clean air to chase after Ocon. Meanwhile, Gasly in P4 is maybe going to try and size up Bottas eventually. And we're trying our best to size up Sainz and then try and go and chase after Lando Norris. But there is Jack Aitken in the Williams, still there ahead of Red Bulls and still in the points. He's doing absolute madness. Let's keep an eye on Jack Aitken, as that could be one of the stories of the race if the Williams is able to get points ahead of the likes of Red Bulls. But meanwhile, we just watched on Gasly going very easily around the outside of Valtteri Bottas, and so Gasly now is in third. So will he go chasing after the race leaders? Let's see. Looks like he has a lot of pace. Meanwhile, up ahead, look in the distance, Lando Norris going down the inside of the AlphaTauri, I think there is, and Sainz is right there as well. Could it be a three-way fight? It could become a four-way fight, because we're right here. We don't quite have DRS, but those three are fighting. It's three wide into the next corner. Bottas is holding up Sainz, and look at this. Sweet as you want. Cut to the inside. Thank you very much. 2 places for 1. That's how you do it. Just size it up. Nice and easy, and we're going to send it now on Lando as well. I'm trying to get another position. We bang tyres, and Norris keeps his foot in. We're now going to go wheel to wheel with our teammate. It's so close to the left-hand side. Can we go around the outside of Lando through the left-hander? Not quite. Keep our foot in, though, and we now got the grip round the outside, but Lando keeps his foot in, and look how close it is. This is fantastic racing. Lando comes back at us, though. We've deployed a bit too much of our ERS now, so we don't actually have any for the end of the lap, so Lando is able to get back ahead, and to be fair, probably better for us to not be side by side through the last corner, because that would have held us up way too much. But you can see now Sainz is right on the back, and we go very defensive, cut back to the racing line, just kind of shut that move off, and we remain in P5 then. So still some bloody great work to overtake at least Sainz and Bottas, that was, in one smooth move. But we're still trying to go for Lando. We fake to right, go to the left hand side. This is becoming a titanic scrap with our teammate, and surely we've got the traction here. Open up DRS. Yes, we do. Up into P4, but that may not be the end of the story. We're going to have to watch on about that, but for now, we are in a lofty P4. What seems like a very lofty P4, considering we were down in P9 at one point. And oh, look at how poor we are off that corner. As I've said before in previous seasons, that corner, the AI, I'll never know how they're so quick off that one. And with that, Lando's continuing on to pile on the pressure, and he's got the momentum here on this straight with DRS. Down the inside he goes. It's a big dive bomb from him. We give him the room to work with, being our teammate, but we get actually better traction than him because he actually tightens up his corner a bit more. But it's now a drag race, and he's still there. Is he going to go for a move? Yes, he is. We squeeze him, but he makes the big dive. We try and go early on the brakes, and I get my pants pulled down. I try to cut in and be clever, too clever there, and instead, I'm so slow off that corner. Like I just said, that Sainz, he actually tries to go around the outside of us. I don't know why I thought that was a clever decision, because I know how poor I am on that corner versus the AI on this game. I don't know why I thought cutting in and going for the earlier exit would actually work out there. So in hindsight, a mistake there from us in terms of going wheel to wheel with Lando. Meanwhile, we just watched Jack Aitken overtake Bottas. Bottas was in second. How far has he fallen now? He's down to P8, and Jack Aitken legitimately still is in P7, that Williams. What a drive he's doing right now. Lap 22 though, and Sainz is piling on the pressure to us because we're feeling the tyre wear. Look at those tyres on the right-hand side on the heads-up display there. Getting to 60%. Remember, at 70%, that's when a puncher can come in. So we've only got 1 or 2 laps left until we make our pit stop. But lap 23, I am struggling on these tyres, man. I need to box in this lap. I want to come in, but look up the road. Once again, Lando has the obviously earlier call, and he comes in. So we can't come in on this lap. He gets the first port call. So we continue on one more lap with these dead tyres. Sainz does the same. Ocon and Stroll continue on as well at the moment, though. So once again, we're actually matching the race leaders. Yellow flags on the very next lap. A Ferrari goes slow. So I thought there's maybe a chance that in a half a lap's time, that could be a virtual safety car. Sainz coming down our inside. We're going to stay out one more lap in case the safety car comes out. The virtual one even comes out. That'll help us. Alas, it did not. We took the risk. I thought that Ferrari was going to maybe produce a safety car, a virtual safety car. Didn't work out in the end, so we have to pit on lap 25. So we've definitely probably lost some time here because my tyres were so worn. Stroll, to be fair to us, he also has come in on this same lap. So Ocon and Sainz, that came in on the previous one. So it's not that bad. We are going to lose some time. But in theory, also, to be fair, myself and Stroll now are going to actually have fresher tyres at the end of this race. And if the tyre wear is that high on this same set, it's another set of soft tyres for all of us. We're all going very aggressive. So we've been jumped by Sainz, who was technically overtaking us anyway before he made his pit stop. But myself and Stroll, we're actually in a good position because we stretched that stint 3 more laps than we really needed to. And so we should be in a better position come the very end of this race. But at the moment, we've got the overwhelming speed on Sainz in clean air. All things kind of equal, we should be quicker than that Red Bull car. That Red Bull's been nowhere, and we overtake Sainz. Meanwhile, though, as I was overtaking him, you may have heard faintly, my engineer said Jack Aitken in the Williams has an issue, and he's just been overtaken by Ricciardo. So what a shame for the Brit and the British team, Williams. They were flying high, P7, but he's got a mechanical issue, and we know how that works with the AI. He's just going to fall back and back and back. So, alas, Williams maybe aren't going to get a point in this race. Meanwhile, Ocon leads the way, but he's being chased after by Stroll and Gasly. And Gasly is right up the back of Stroll, so that may just be the kick up the arse Stroll needs to push them both forwards and to continue to make this maybe a 3-way fight for the race win. Let's see how it progresses. For me, though, in our fight with Lando Norris, our teammate, we're catching up. We've just set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. Now getting a screen freeze for good measure just to celebrate that, but some really good pace. We are on low fuel, though. As my engineer just said, we need to be wary of that, but I thought we'll just try and save fuel at the end of the race. I'd rather have a quick car right now, get the overtake done, and then try and defend from Lando with having to save some fuel later. So right now, we are in the negative on fuel. We open up DRS. He goes defensive. He stays to the inside, so we have to go the long way round, and we know how difficult this can be versus the AI, and we just can't do it as Lando chops across us on the exit, and we just don't have enough room. I mean, I'm trying my best to rotate the car, but he's just able to get that better exit, and he's doing really well, to be fair. He's being really clever, parking on the inside, and I mean, it's good to see, obviously, the AI being that clever, and now the virtual safety car is out, which is actually great news for us, because now we can actually save that fuel that we were burning so much in this last part of this race. You can see I'm actually negative, nearly 0.4, so that was going to be a lot of fuel to save, so we can now save it all under the virtual safety car, and we're going to just be careful, because we were actually very close to Lando when the virtual safety car came out, so we want to try and be as close as we can to not lose time to him and give him any sort of advantage. So here we are, next lap, lap 33. It's ending awkwardly as we enter the apex here, and we're tucked up behind, and just the lack of grip there. The tyres maybe a little bit cold, and we lose the back end, and so we nearly lose maybe 3/10 to Lando. So we've only got 3 laps left. We've not got long in this Grand Prix, so this is crunch time. Now or never can we get P4 and at least get some points over our teammate and the championship leader, more importantly. But meanwhile, up at the front, Gasly makes a move on Lance Stroll up into P2. Ocon having to deal with some traffic with the Haas of Mick Schumacher. So Ocon, though, still in the lead, though. He's got a bit of a gap, but I now wonder how quick Gasly could go. Not that much quicker, because Lance Stroll, the very next lap, comes back at him and re-overtakes him, maybe. The Aston Martin car on the outside. Gasly with a big dive bomb, though, to come back at him. These two are having a great scrap here, but Gasly looks like doesn't quite have the traction, and so Stroll's back up into P2. But Gasly might come back at him, though. I spoke too soon. Round the outside, it's going to be a fantastic effort by Gasly. If he can pull it off on the exit, not quite, but well, like I said at the start of this episode, what great racing, and it's going to continue. Look at the pace Stroll's got. This is now onto the, I think, the second last lap of the Grand Prix, and Stroll sends one down the inside. Ocon, I think he's facing the tyre wear. Remember, Stroll has got 2 laps fresher tyres, and this may just be the big difference today, as Stroll has DRS. Ocon doesn't go defensive to the inside, leaves the space on the inside for Stroll. Big mistake, because surely now the Canadian out-tractions him on the exit. Yes, he does, and the Canadian leads the Austrian Grand Prix. And on the same lap, a little bit further behind, we're looking to maybe overtake Norris again. He goes very defensive to the inside, so he forces around the outside once again. We look, but just not enough. We're so close, though, to his rear end. It's so annoying. And behind us, though, we've actually got company in the form of Max Verstappen, who's lapped in this Grand Prix, but he's actually just come out of a late pit stop, so he's on much fresher soft tyres, and he's going to legit look to unlap himself right now. And we've lost some speed in Sector 2 with the dirty air. We let Verstappen through, because now I'm thinking, hang on, can we use Verstappen as a bit of a kind of a way to overtake Lando maybe? Because Verstappen is mega quick. He's on fresher soft tyres. Like, he literally just made that pit stop like 2 laps earlier, because he's on a very different race to us, obviously having been taken out at the start of the race. So there goes Max now, trying to unlap himself from Lando. But whilst he does that, even though Lando's got a blue flag kind of situation here, obviously if Max has the overriding speed, he's allowed to overtake him, and in doing so, he's slowed up Lando so much that, look at that, we just out-traction him into the right-hander, switch back from left to right, and we've absolutely embarrassed him there as he's been caught out completely. And so that plan has worked out for us onto the second last lap of the Grand Prix. We're up into P4, and we've overtaken Lando Norris, and Verstappen there, he's going to continue to pile on, but he's just unlapping himself basically from cars. But here we are then, last lap of the Grand Prix. It is Stroll in the lead. It looks like he's going to take that victory. Ocon in second, Gasly third. Look at the tyre wear though, and the rear end stepped out for us, and with that, Lando is piling on the pressure. He's got DRS, and he's just going to try and keep this pressure cooker on until the last corner. Schumacher with a rear end step. He's a lapped car though. We look behind us, and oh no! We nearly crash into Schumacher, and that was the worst time to look back. I can't believe that just happened. I cannot believe that actually just happened. We've actually just lost P4 on a technicality of I look back at the worst time possible. I was just looking back because that's the corner where obviously the AI are so much better at me, and I was just conscious of Lando getting a great exit with the tyre wear. And we end that race, well, with a screen freeze, and we end that with misery of this is what it looked like on the replay camera without me looking back. But this is what I didn't see. I didn't see Schumacher slowing up. I thought he was going to pull to the hard left, but he kind of stayed in the middle and kind of where I was aiming my car at. And by the time I looked forwards, well, I actually did really well not to end my race with a massive crash, but that is, wow. Well, that's actually just embarrassing, really. Looking back at the worst time, F1 game issues, lesson learned, just don't bother looking back on the F1 game. We've just lost some really important points on our teammate.
Smiling faces on the pit wall after a superb win here in Spielberg, and rightly so, a brilliant effort from the whole team. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Racing Point's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the veterans of the sport. They're making their way out to the podium now as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them.
But it's happy days then for Lance Stroll and the Racing Point team with the Aston Martin livery in this career mode of ours on the top step of the podium, beating Ocon in a really great fight. I mean, that was an insane, intense race between these three. Gasly did really well because he started down in P8, I think it was, or 9 on the grid, and came back for P3. And at one point, I thought he was going to go for the race win maybe, but Stroll, you know, with me, pitting later than everyone else, had slightly fresher tyres, was able to catch Ocon, and Ocon looked like his tyres dropped off the cliff, which is why I'm actually quite impressed he managed to to hold on to P2 at least ahead of Gasly, but Stroll had the overwhelming pace to do it. But in the championship, then Lando extends his lead by a little bit because he got that P4 ahead of our P5. It's not by a lot, but it's still an extension to 10 points instead of a reduction there for us. So that's a bit frustrating. And the Constructors Racing Point solidify themselves in P3, then ahead of Mercedes with that, even with Gasly improving. A massively action-packed race, so much chaos with the rain, and then some fantastic racing. Massive shame and shout out to Jack Aiken, who definitely deserved points today in that Williams car. And then for us as a team, I guess it's an okay race. For me personally, horrendous one in terms of just that embarrassment at the end of, yeah, I regret now looking back. I didn't need to look back, but I was scared about Lando, and in turn, looking back was the thing that actually lost me the position rather than him just having the traction on that corner. So, yeah, absolutely horrendous in that kind of way, but also at the same time, great recovery because we were down 7 positions on lap 1, so silver linings, I guess. But we go on to the next one. But if you did enjoy that action-packed race, then guys, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.